and welcome to Just Away, the new program about road tennis by road tennis players for everyone. And before we start the actual show, there are a few people that need to be thanked. First and foremost is Rubis, their sports and culture club, and a few members of that club, Mark Rowe, Joel Springer, and Rudy Smith, all of whom played an important part in getting this program on the road. Now, as you can see, there's a very important person in here at our location, at the Rubis location, and it's none other than the world boss, Julian Michael Jackson White. Julian, thank you for being here with us. Thank you for being with us. This has been a long time coming. We've been after each other to get this on the road. I know we've reached this point, and I'm really glad that you've come and to be a part of the show with us. Now, the first question I have to ask you, Julian, is the question that everybody wants to know the answer to. That question is, where did the nickname Michael Jackson come from?
Well, good evening again, and thanks for being here. And as you mentioned before, it's long overdue.
Yes.
And the nickname came when I entered my first tournament, which was a bikes tournament, in 1990. And you know, it was from one of the areas where road tennis was not really originated from. It says Government Hills and Michael, just a gap or 2 gaps away from Springer School.
Right.
So I remember playing, it was a gentleman by the name of Nigel Harper, which is from the Orleans. And this individual, you know, the Orleans was one of the most leading players, leading parishes or communities in the island, so to speak. And I remember about 5 or 6 individuals asked me what I have to play. And when he mentioned Nigel Harbour, everybody was telling me you could best go back home because nobody with the long flowing jelly curls like Michael Jackson can't play road tennis.
Ah, okay.
And between a fella by the name of Gregory Simpson and Philip Froth-Yarna, stuck the name on me from then. And up to now, you will know the name stick on is also a household name as well.
Yes, your name is very much a household name in Barbados in road tennis circles and throughout the length and breadth of the country. So, if I can call you Julian, I'll call you Jackson as I'm accustomed to calling you. When did you start playing road tennis?
I started playing tennis from primary school days, you know, probably somewhere between 6, 7 years old. I remember there was a gentleman, you know, back in the old days, they didn't used to know anybody by the first name, but I still remember Mr. King. I was like one side, and the court was just probably a house away from where he lived, you know, and I remember the individual saying he put down the court for us in the summer vacation so he could have his eyes or watch what we were doing during the day so none of us could get in trouble. And that was the 10th age at primary school. But then my first love actually really was football. And in those years I was doing pretty okay, you know. I remember probably in the 80s, I remember watching one of the leading teams from England, Stoke City, come to Kensington Oval and play an exhibition match, and I was one of the ball boys at the game for a team, JCB Earth Movers, and it was Gar Hill Bombers, which was the under 13 team. And after that game, it was a gentleman by the name of Ansel, who was one of the leading coaches in the island at the time, called me for youth trials after displaying the skills, which he saw me when it was Banksman in the lead as well, going to the garrison on very numerous occasions on Saturday mornings, and realized the talent they had and called me trials for the under 13 team, and also was called to trials for under 16 as well. And I even had an opportunity to go on to represent the youth team of Barbados, but after injury with my hip, I decided and ease off of football, and it was Goldburn Bailey actually was one of the leading individuals at the time. Tell me why you don't stop with the football and come and try out the road tennis, you know, because even then it was still playing, but I was more playing like football 5 days a week, probably playing tennis twice, you know. And I think it was in the early 90s, just about 1991. I used to play tennis in the Ivy Housing area with a fella named Lou Norris and my good friend Andy Smith, you know. And St. George, they now come from winning the bikes tournament in 1989. And after he was playing Lou Norris, Lou said, Sonny, I will let you to have a game with this individual, no come from the bikes tournament, and I will let you to play him. and I went in and beat St. George the Memphis 2 straight sort to 1.
Right, okay.
And he was very annoyed, and they tell me, well, this youngster have enough talent, but you don't keep him playing road tennis. And even then, I was still knocking out with the football, but then I started to take tennis serious somewhere about 1999.
Right.
And that is where my future and most of my ability start moving on from there, after winning my first tournament in 99.
Oh, okay. Actually, that was going to be my next question to you. What was the very first tournament you actually entered?
Actually, first time I entered was a bank tournament as well,
okay,
which you mentioned before. But then it took me between 90 and 1999 to really get into the groove and understand the game. And I won my first tournament in 1990 playing Jeffrey Barabas.
Oh, nice.
Back in the Banksyard again.
Back in the Banksyard again, okay.
And surprisingly, this was the first individual that I played in my very first tournament too, to come back and beat him in 99 and beat him at finals.
Oh, very, very good. Very good, Julian. So the next question then comes this. Over all the years, how many tournaments have you actually won? I've heard many figures, but I want to hear from you. How many tournaments have you actually won?
Well, it's a very interesting question, and to date I've won 42 road tennis titles.
Wow.
To date.
42.
Yes, 42. Unfortunately, I had him on my hard drive at home, and the computer has some little issues. And
right.
I went to thinking computers so that I could not only say, but let people see the individual tournaments that I won. Because I had all documented,
right,
so I won't make any mistakes in between there, And the gentleman told me it's a waste of time, but I would still like to find some person that could take them off of that hard drive and put them back on one for me. That anything this question being asked, it's just not a word of mouth.
Right, exactly.
Yes, and the tournaments, and the exact tournaments, and the name of the tournaments that I won as well.
Okay. So then the next question then comes at you, Jackson. Of all the tournaments that you've won, which tournament was your favorite win? You would say is your favorite win?
There's so many, but I believe I will have to go back with the one in 1999 because...
Oh, the very first one?
The very first one, because to win a bank tournament back in those days, I remember enough of the leading players saying, even if you win, like how I mentioned, I win 42 tournaments, and you didn't win a bank tournament, people would still say that you're not a road tennis player for some apparent reason.
Okay.
So, and I didn't only win one. Oh. I was one of the, I think it probably would be the history books with Lynn Richardson to be the only individual to win 4 bank tournaments as well, alongside the Lynn,
That is very, well, that's very good, Jackson. To win 42 tournaments.
Yeah, 42 and 4 bank tournaments.
Wow. That is amazing. So, with all these players you just mentioned, Lim and there are others, Barabas and those guys, of all these guys that people talk about as the great tennis players of Barbados, of these guys who would have played and won tournaments, who do you think was the best out of all of them? If you had to pick one and say, look, this guy, he is the standard bearer for the world tennis in Barbados. He is the best. Who would you say?
Well, there was two names that I could mention, and I would say this only because I haven't seen much of limp tennis. When it was coming in the 90s, Limp already broke his foot and was getting ready to go out of tennis. Okay. But from through what I heard over the years, they have Limp Richardson class as the best world tennis player to ever walk any part of the world. Right. Okay. But for me, if I had to choose, in my era, I would go with Tiny Jordan without a doubt. Tiny Jordan. So tell us about Tiny Jordan. What made him so special? He, from over the years, Tiny was one of the individuals that take tennis very serious. We didn't live too far apart from around probably 5 minutes the most. And Tiny was the type of individual when 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, Tiny on the tennis court. Afternoons he on the tennis court because he was a painter, a great painter, and he had ample time to play the game. Right. And to say this, Tiny taught me so much over the years. And I remember back, it was an evening in the village in the early 90s, when it was mostly like Tiny Jordan, Curtis Soxbailey, the Lama Barnetts, and the big names, Edward Darboe Carrington, only to mention a few, MacArthur Barra. Yes. And I remember one evening I was going home, and Tiny told me, Jackson, how it is that you've got Barra a big lead. And Barra would tell me, Jackson, almost every evening to be exact, you're close to home, but you won't get there. Right. I ended up losing the game at probably 18 or 19. And there's only one evening when me and Tiny was going home together, he told me, Jackson, I watch you play Barra. Numerous occasions, you just get by the doorsteps and can't make it. And I remember you also saying, you play left basically forward arm and mostly backarm tennis, and it's hardly so you can ball middle court, and this way Jeffrey Borais it's pretty weak, you know, because he stand up close to the court. When you say the ball, which we call floating tennis, backcourt, Jeffrey tends to get trapped in the middle.
Right.
And it's only the next even when he tried, I realized it was winning points. And I think that same very week, I think it was one of the first times I beat Bora practicing as well.
Right.
And when I went back and tell him, he said he can tell you everything because you know he's the number one player there. I might eventually end up beating him. So he was one of the smartest road tennis players. And I can also remember Tony telling me every individual plays tennis different. And this is one that I also remember and I learned from it over the years. Because I might come and play you Kevin backarm, and the next opponent might have a stronger backarm than you, which might be my favorite corner, and I just can't beat him. So Tony Jordan told me over the years, learn to play every individual road tennis player different. Right. Because what might be weak for one individual player might be another man's strength. Right. And over the years, I learned to work on it, looked at people's weakness from the strengths up to this very day, you know, and it worked out for me over the years, and that's what made me successful up to today, you know. Unfortunately, I still have a little menace with Mark Benham for the last 2 to 3 years playing, you know, and just tough luck. And as I mentioned before, I learned from the best over the years, and it paid off. Yes,
but that's good. So you brought along a couple of your trophies here this evening. Tell us about these trophies. I see there's one from the Silver Hill tournament of 2014. There's another one for your contribution to sport during 2012. And this is the third one that reads, this one for Atlanta Shotgun Tournament in 2003. How many trophies do you have?
More than 42.
Gee, sure. More than 42.
Wow. At times, I can meet some of my, not opponents, but some of my fans. And some people will ask me, they know when they're going home, some from the community, very come and come here, like give a few to some of the people that over the years I slept at, and probably was like mother or father to me over the years, you know. Back in 1999, people tell me up to this very day, they don't know how we do it. Right. But in 99, after winning that first tournament, which was a fairly big trophy at the time, I gave it to one of my cousins, which brought me up, which was like a father to me. Right. Because over the years, I never knew my father, you know, and he played that part over the years, and I gave him that very first tournament that very first trophy in 1999.
Yes, that is great to hear.
But here, when you mention the trophies, the one in the middle, which is the Silver Hill trophy, that was the last winning trophy I won within the last year or two, you know? Right, okay. And this one here, my closest to me, this was sponsored through Chris Stickler and Dale Clark to the contribution sport, because I am originated, and after moving from Government Hill and coming to Black Rock, it was donated by him. And the one to the far right, that was, we the note came back off a tour from England. Right. And they put on the very first tournament, was held in the for last point now. Right. Was held in Deacon's Farm. And they won that tournament as well. I just come back from tour in 2002 actually. Right. But the tournament was played in 2003.
Oh, great. All right, Julian, let's move on to the last couple of questions here before we get to the fun stuff. What do you think about the state of road tennis today? Where do you think it's going in the right direction?
Yes, please. I think it's going in the right directions. You know, the PRTA is doing a wonderful job in pushing the sport. Right. And I believe it's the leading body in the sport today, because they have done so much for road tennis, you know, and I don't know if I should say this through the sports council. I think they're still a bit laid back. Okay. As the leading dictator to the sport, I believe I would have liked to see them doing what Dale Clark is doing today. Yes, because you know they have the world body, and the sports council is over the Barbados Road Tennis Association, and today I don't think they are doing enough, because I would like to see I would like to see some more coaches being involved from the sports council, because today this is almost 15 to 18 years, and there's only one coach coaching the schools in Barbados, which I think is a step backwards. Yes, okay. Because why I would say that is true. We went to tour to China in 2010, Kevin, and when I get back off of that tour, I remember MacArthur Bar telling me we was dealing with over 900 and somebody thousand people going to, it was an expo in China per day.
Yes, wow.
You know, because we know the amount of people that China
Live in
live in
yeah,
China.
correct.
And on that tour, it was Frost Yarner, Peter Moore, and myself dealing with the road tennis in China.
Yeah.
And because of the spacing, we couldn't use the full 21 by 10 court. We had to use a smaller court because you know the space was limited. And we were dealing with probably something like 5,000 to 6,000 people in a short space of about 5 to 6 hours. Wow. I remember we was actually like, and you know how it perspires playing tennis.
Correct.
We was taking just pictures, photographs. It wasn't even playing, we were just taking photographs. It was sweating like when we played a road tennis game, you know, the people was into the game and a very serious part of it. And there's one part that catch me on that tour. I remember Philip Frost Yarner playing individual. It was a pretty aged man too, probably in his 50s. And you know, because China is familiar with that table tennis background. I remember Frost saying that, don't worry about him, he can go off the court just not being tired. And that gentleman played on the court for over 3 hours.
Wow, 3 hours?
Over 3 hours. And I had to go and relieve Frost and then take over from there, and the gentleman still didn't want to come off the court.
He was enjoying it? He
was very much enjoying it, and the Chinese, and I believe, I don't like to say this in my interviews, but it should be mentioned to give people in the Barbados Tennis Association and the Sports Council and let them push the game some more. I also believe that anytime any country takes the sport serious, as I mentioned before, I feel sad to say, but I feel Barbados can get left behind because we're not dealing with enough coaches to develop the sport at the level we should be developing it at.
Understood. Understood. So then let's only 2 more questions to go. The next question is, and you sort of touched on it just now, short term. Where would you like to see for the short term road tennis to go, and then long term? Would you like to see a true professional league where it is international? Or you're one of these people I've heard speaking in road tennis circles that want to keep road tennis strictly Beijing. What do you think?
Well, for me, I think it should go international, by all means, because if you want to do something for the sport and as marketing is concerned, I believe we should go international, but there's a few steps from there. You know, as I mentioned before, Dale is still working on a couple of things, and that's why I say the Barbados Road Tennis Association is still a little laid back because, you know, the PRT, you know, come and change the ball.
Yes.
And to say that, even when we was in China, they produced a racket as well before we leave down there.
Oh, nice.
And which was, I think Frost was in charge of that as well. And if we want to see road tennis going to the next level, I think we have to get it more international. And one of the things we will have to look at as well, because if we want to go to the international level, I think by all means, you know, as I mentioned, the PRT has changed the ball. I think we might have to change the rackets too as well, because if you get sponsors from Nike, Adidas, and whoever sponsor want to come on board, I don't think it would be the right way to just use a hard piece of board that we can want to buy from charters as well.
It's true.
So
it's true.
It would be nice to see road tennis go to the next direction, and it could go there as well, because we went, as I mentioned before, we went to China. I've toured Venezuela, I've toured England, which was pushing tennis as well.
Right.
And as far as it was told only recently, there's a young lady in America also pushing road tennis with balls and rackets by the name of Ling. Her rackets also produced. I don't know if they're out of board or where they're out of road tennis racket is being sold in America now for 75 US.
Wow. So, and all of that is income that could go to help Barbados.
It's true. Because if we want to see the sport go, this is the right direction is to go, you know. And,
yeah.
And as I mentioned, it should go international, and if we want to see a sport go international, and I remember also, America should be one of the launching places, because I think it was even a step a little backwards when we toured England. We thought America would want to be the first two places to launch the game, because you know they say that is the land opportunity.
And we have a large Barbadian
content in America playing the game as well.
Playing the game, yeah.
And I believe America should have been one of the launching places for road tennis. And as far as I know as well, there's a millionaire gentleman, I can't remember his name offhand, but he was pushing road tennis players. Road tennis was some of the leading basketballers, some of the rugby players, and he was pushing it down there through the same Frost Yarn as well. I don't know how far it is today, but to say that they'll also now come from only America last year.
Yes.
It's a tournament that was invited down there with Marvin and Griffith and Dario Hunt's playing it. So, and I always like to tell the fellas, it's always good to play these games in these islands or these countries, but to get the feedback from what they're doing after we leave is also very important. And today we don't get the feedback that we like to get, so we can understand what's going on.
Let's hope and hope then that those who taking the sport forward will take some of your ideas, because they are very solid ideas, and I hope they do exactly that. One final question to you, Julian. What do you think your legacy will be? When you finally decide, I'm no longer playing tennis, I can no longer play, what would you like people to say about you going forward? Saying about this guy, Julian Michael Jackson White, you were a boss.
I would try to make that as simple as possible, because you know, we are in a country that sometimes they have a lot of negativity.
Yes, we can.
Very much so, because I'm glad you mentioned that too as well, because only 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was listening to an interview with Desmond Haynes and Admiral Nelson, speaking on behalf of cricket today, and Desmond said something that was pretty interesting to me, and to hear him say at the time, I did agree with what he was saying, because he was saying today, we don't know the pressure the cricketers today have to go through, because back in their day, you know, the Gary Sobers and all those big names love cricket. We all know that, love cricket.
Sure.
To me, I don't know if I should say it, but I will still mention it just in case, because today most of the sportsmen today are based on what they see outside.
Right.
And before they can get to that professional aspect of it, they want to be this particular body and looking too pretty before they even learn the game.
Oh yes. Oh
and
yes.
to say that, why I say that also is because all I would like to see is that people respect me for what I did over the years, to be honest. That's all I wanted. Just that people respect me and respect world tennis and the sportsmen today for what they contribute to the sport, whether they're good or, because we know every individual can be an A-class player. We all know that.
Right.
Everybody can be a Brian Ladder. Everybody can be a Sachin Tendulkar. Everybody can be a Patrick Husbands.
Right.
But as long as you put in that work, you will see results.
Yes, yes. So in other words, you think that we need to have a bit more respect for all the players.
For all players, whether it could be as old as 80, to be as young as you could hold a racket.
Correct.
Every individual deserve respect.
I agree with that. Julian, we're going to cut short the interview. This is a wonderful interview session. I couldn't have expected anything better, but we're going to get to the fun part, which is the World Tennis Challenge. So thanks for the interview, Julian. We can get back. Give me a few minutes. We can set back up for the World Tennis Challenge.
No problem.
Thank you. So, Julian, welcome to the World Tennis Challenge. This is where I know, as the host of the show, I'm going to challenge you to a game or two on the court. And here are your choices. There's the fortune teller, where you predict how many points I'm going to get, and you try to keep me from getting those points. There's the philanthropist, where you'll be a nice guy, you're going to give me certain points, and then you're going to catch me back. Or 3, you're going to be the one-arm bandit. You can play me from 0, but the trick is you have to play me with your arm behind your back, even on serves. Which of those 3 you're going to do today?
I think I'm going to be one with it. I can try to stop if I get a certain amount of points.
Right, so what you're going to be then, you're going to be fortune teller. You're going to predict the amount of points I'm going to get, and you're going to make sure that I don't get those points.
Yes, please.
How many points are you going to give me, Julian?
Not give you, stop if I get it.
How much are you going to get Julian?
6 points.
Stop if you get 6 points. You heard that here. He's going to stop me from getting 6 points. That is not going to happen. We are going to be the best players ever and play the best player on the planet, and he will not let us get 6 points. That's not going to happen. We are about to begin. Thank you. Warm up. The ball warm up, and then we start the game. 6 points. You're not nervous, Julian.
Coming.
Love all.
Yes, sir.
Love all. I win a point. I win 1 point. 1 point. 1 point. 1. One up. 1 up. 1 2. 2 1. 2 all. Okay. I have him exactly where I want him now. I have him. I have him where I want him, I tell you. 53. 54. Go ahead. Yeah. 55. 76. 55. He has 5 points to get, 6 points to get. I have 1. 1. points against the world number 1. Oh, they're the world boss. We're going again. Don't tell you nothing. He got me hit hard enough. But we're going again. Level. There was something on the other side of the court I needed to get to. 3-1. I have to slow it down again because it has me tired. 1-7. Come on, rock it. 4 points. One more point. 85. Julian! Over there. Over there. First of all, let me just say thanks to all of you for watching this show. Thanks to Rubens, and specifically Mark, Joel, and Rudy. And just coming to the show is our friend Elvis, who came to give moral support. But most of all, I'd like to give thanks and thank Julian, Michael Jackson White, for taking it easy on me for the first show and giving me a little break to get those couple of points. When camera goes off, I will get 0. So thank you, Julian. Thanks for being on the show.
No problem.
I appreciate it.
No problem.
Thanks for watching Just the Way, the Road Tennis Show by road tennis professionals for everyone. Thank you and goodbye.